Hi, everyone.
Greetings. We've entered a new section in the Pure Worship book, right?
That's right.
Section 5, page 201.
That's right.
So I'll be reading from the screen. I'll go there now. And Vivian will be reading from the real thing, the book.
Right.
Okay, what do they have on the section 5 illustration? Not very much text on this page, just a picture of paradise and lots of fruit in the foreground. What they have, though, as their text is Ezekiel 43, verse 7. I will dwell among my people. Big problem.
Yeah.
And they have the subhead, Pure Worship of Jehovah Restored. Well, that's, of course, the theme of the book. But how is I will dwell among my people fulfilled? Well, obviously, symbolically, if you're a witness. But what about Ezekiel? What did he think that meant?
Well, they had a time where they viewed God as being in the temple, the Shekinah glory. Not everyone could just walk in there anytime.
But it was there.
It was literal. Something was there.
And you have actually taught in the aid book and elsewhere that the Shekinah glory was a visible manifestation of Jehovah. You might take that symbolically, but it was a visible manifestation of Jehovah. But it was there and could be seen. And you also have noted, if you're a Jehovah's Witness reading your reference books carefully, that Shekinah glory, according to Jewish tradition, was no longer there after the exile.
Yeah.
Even though the temple and the sanctuary were rebuilt.
So if something's being restored, that's what they're thinking. God is going to be with us again.
That's right. So when you say, I will dwell among my people, and you make it purely symbolic, you've already trod over the line. They say Jehovah gave the prophet Ezekiel and the apostle John visions that have striking similarities. Features of those visions teach us valuable lessons that help us worship Jehovah acceptably now and provide a window into life in paradise under God's kingdom. I will take exception already to what you've said about worshiping Jehovah acceptably. According to the Old Testament itself, and Ezekiel and Jeremiah and all, by the way, those two guys were priests as well as prophets. According to them, acceptable worship could only be offered in the temple, in this one place on earth, Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So you can't worship Jehovah acceptably now. If you're trying to make this about the restoration of pure worship, until that happens, there can be no pure worship on earth. We've made that point frequently before. And then you get to the first chapter in section 5, which is chapter 19.
Yeah.
Everything will live wherever the stream goes. And here they have a picture of Ezekiel treading into the new river, right?
Yeah.
And we've read that before as witnesses, so we kind of know what it's talking about here, so we won't read the section. They kind of paraphrase it all here.
But they have moved from 43 in the section to 47 already.
The text
just jumped right over to now we're talking about Ezekiel 47.
Yeah, this is a regrettable feature of the whole book. Really, is jumping back and forth. So you never quite get in the flow, if we may pun.
Yeah, it's by design.
Now the heading for chapter 19 is Everything Will Live Wherever the Stream Goes. And their focus, they say, is how the vision of a river flowing from the temple finds fulfillment in ancient times, at present, and in the future. So here I'll read paragraph 1, and then Vivian will be reading some more for us. Ezekiel sees yet another marvel in his temple vision. There is a stream flowing from the sacred structure. Just picture him tracing the course of that crystal clear water. Then they tell you to read verses 1 to 12 in chapter 47, but they're paraphrasing here, so we won't do that. It trickles out from the threshold of the sanctuary, then it emerges from the temple complex near the eastern gate. Ezekiel's angelic guide leads him away from the temple, measuring the distance as they go. The angel repeatedly has Ezekiel pass through the water, and the prophet finds that it deepens rapidly, soon becoming a torrent that he could cross only if he were to plunge in and swim.
Ezekiel learns that the river flows into the Dead Sea and heals its salty, lifeless waters wherever the water of the river comes in contact with them, making the waters teem with fish. And along the river banks he sees many trees of all sorts growing. Every month they produce a new crop of nourishing fruit, and they sprout leaves that provide healing. Seeing all of this must have filled Ezekiel's heart with peace and hope. But what did this part of the temple vision mean for him and his fellow exiles? And what does it mean for us today? You want me to read the next one? Or?
Yeah, I guess we want to throw in the thought right away that for a man living near the Dead Sea and living in the very city that's talking about in the vision, Ezekiel would associate true worship with this one place on earth. And the Dead Sea was dead and remains dead. So when he saw this vision of restoration, it comported or agreed with what he already knew from, let's say, Isaiah about paradise being restored in the promised land. And we've done a whole playlist on this, which you can consult. The playlist is Paradise Lost for Jehovah's Witnesses, 19 videos, one of which is from Ezekiel, most of them from Isaiah, those promises. So Ezekiel would associate all this with what he already knew, but you're not doing that here.
Yeah.
You're making Paradise Earth, of course, in your books. It's about you. It's not about what Ezekiel would have thought it was about.
Yeah.
So let's go on to the next subhead, which is, what did the visionary river mean for the exiles? Well, Ezekiel. The Jews of ancient times surely did not understand the visionary river to be literal. What an assertion. Surely, they say.
Surely, yeah.
Rather, this passage of Scripture likely reminded them of another inspired restoration prophecy, one recorded perhaps more than 2 centuries earlier by the prophet Joel. Know what they do here? They reference one verse from Joel 3:18.
But don't quote
Where's
it.
the rest? They don't even quote it.
Yeah.
So they can't do what they've just done with Ezekiel 47, which is paraphrase everything and then tell you to read it.
They just got little snippets from it.
And yet when they tell you to read Joel 3:18, they don't say read the whole passage. They say read one verse.
So we'll do that. We'll read the whole passage. But anyways, finish the paragraph.
Yeah, when the Jewish exiles read Joel's inspired words, they did not expect, notice no surely or likely,
Yeah.
they did not expect the mountains literally to drip with sweet wine or the hills to flow with milk, nor did they expect a spring to flow, what's this? Flow out of the house of Jehovah. Similarly, fellow Jews fellow Jews likely understood that the message of the prophet Ezekiel's vision was not about a literal river. This is mental manipulation here. You might not notice all these adverbs.
This is programming you. It is. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, what message was Jehovah conveying? The scriptures offer strong indications about the meaning of some parts of this picture. In general, though, we will consider 3 clear, loving assurances that may be drawn from this prophetic passage.
Even their sidebar has the question 3. Why did the Jews of ancient times not understand Ezekiel's vision of a river to be literal? This is programming. This is brainwashing you so that you have that fixed in your head and you keep repeating it. How many times in one paragraph?
But as we've seen so frequently lately, they give you the key to really unlocking this passage, and it's right in the paragraph, which is Joel.
Yeah.
You say Joel, read Joel, but you only tell us to read one verse.
Yeah.
They would remember Joel, of course. I do believe they're right that it was written before Ezekiel, although that's disputed, by the way, by critics who comment on Joel. But I believe it's written earlier. So I'll go along with your suggestion that we should read it, but let's read the whole context.
Yeah.
That is.
Do you want me to start with the one they...
Yeah, let's start with the verse they think proves that it can't be literal. That's verse 18.
Yeah, they quote 18. In that day the mountains will drip with sweet wine. The hills will flow with milk, and the streams of Judah will all flow with water. Out of the house of Jehovah a spring will flow. And it will irrigate the valley of the acacia trees. Well, that part they didn't even mention.
That's inconvenient, right?
Because irrigation, what, spiritual irrigation? What does this mean? And specific type of trees? Why would you even mention?
So what part of their assertion, their dogma here about how to correctly interpret this, what part of it is correct? Well, did the Jews, when they were told about a promised land they were going to, imagine, when it was called land of milk and honey, that milk and honey actually flowed out of the land and came out of the mountains?
No.
No,
they wouldn't have. But it is a picturesque way of saying a land of plenty, but a land.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't expecting just everything's the same as anywhere.
That's right.
They were expecting prosperity where they were going, where they were being told.
With a slave people enslaved in a land that was flat, that was nourished by one river, and hardly ever rained, this would be different. And that's why God said, you're going to a land that my eyes are there all the time. This is the land I want for you. Let's read, though, just what they suggest would be what Ezekiel would know, which is Joel. So let's read it, though, from the last chapter, which is 3, all around verse 18, though. Let's read from 9 through the end, 21, in the New World Translation.
Okay. Proclaim this among the nations. Prepare not for war. No, prepare for war. Stir up the mighty men. Let all the soldiers draw near. Let them advance. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning shears into spears. Let the weak one say, I am powerful. Come and help, all you surrounding nations assembled together. To the place, O Jehovah, bring down your powerful ones. Let the nations be roused and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there I will sit in order to judge all the surrounding nations. Thrust in a sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come down and tread, for the winepress is full. The vats overflow, for their badness is abundant. Crowds are in the valley of the decision, for the day of Jehovah is near in the valley of the decision. Sun and moon will become dark, and stars will lose their brightness. And Jehovah will roar out of Zion, out of Jerusalem he will raise his voice. And heaven and earth will rock, but Jehovah will be a refuge for his people, a fortress for the people of Israel. And you will have to know that I am Jehovah your God, residing in Zion.
Residing in Zion?
Residing in Zion.
And what is Zion?
My holy mountain, Jerusalem, will become a holy place, and strangers will pass through her no more.
But let's just pause there for a second and realize what we just read. The capital of God's kingdom, therefore, will be Zion, a holy mountain called Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem.
For the people of Israel.
And this will be the end of the Gentile times. Remember the treading down of Jerusalem by the Gentiles until the Gentile times are fulfilled. They're going to end, and what happens at the end? It goes on.
In that day the mountains will drip with sweet wine, and the hills will flow with milk, and the streams of Judah will all flow with water. Out of the house of Jehovah a spring will flow, and it will irrigate the valley of the acacia trees. But Egypt will become desolate, and Edom will be a desolate wilderness, because of the violence done to the people of Judah, in whose land they shed innocent blood. So this, in 2 areas, is wrecking your thought as a witness, because paradise isn't earthwide. It says they're going to be desolate.
And who is God avenging here?
The people of Judah.
Who've been violated and really persecuted endlessly without repentance by Edom, and sometimes by Egypt too. The violence done to the people of Judah. We would call those people Jews, wouldn't we?
And then 20 says, but Judah will always be inhabited, and Jerusalem to generation after generation. I will consider innocent their blood, that I had not considered innocent. And Jehovah will reside in Zion.
So verse 21 is conclusive, and it was for me, by the way, when I rethought this, when I was still an elder 38 or 40 years ago. I will avenge their blood. Whose blood? Blood I have not avenged. In other words, God has not yet brought justice to the Gentile nations for what they have done these 2,600 years or more. For the Lord dwells where? In Zion. That's an inconvenient truth for a lot of Christians as well as Jehovah's Witnesses, isn't it? But can you take, how much of this can you take symbolically? I mean, is it a literal war? Are they literal plowshares that are being beaten into spears and swords? Well, yeah, they're using literal spears. So this is the reversal of Isaiah 2, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is where the opposite happens.
Yeah.
But where's this valley? Notice it says in verse 12, the nations will stir themselves up and come up to the valley. How do you come up to a valley? Well, if that valley is in a place that's hilly, you come up to it. If you're coming from the coast, let's say from either the Red Sea direction, or coming from the Dead Sea direction, or you're coming from the Mediterranean, it doesn't matter. You're going up to hilly country, the land of Judah. But there's a valley called the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which is there to this day between the Mount of Olives and the city itself.
Yeah.
It's a place Ezekiel would know, and Joel knew.
So all these references to the topography of the area you find in the other prophets as well.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
So very inconvenient truths, and especially because it centers upon God not being through with Israel. That
And him
their
transforming
persecutions
it.
of centuries, which of course are not clear here. You don't know it's going to be at least 26 centuries. But we know it is.
Yeah.
And God is going to bring this period of persecution of his people, his ancient people who are still around.
Yeah.
He's going to bring that persecution to an end.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that bunch of people over there that are called Israelis are all going to be saved, though. That's not what it's saying here.
Yeah.
There's going to be a war, and many will die, including Jews. But the Gentiles are the object of his wrath here, aren't they?
And the surroundings are going to change a lot from the sound of it.
Yeah. And that Zechariah is very clear about that. And they're going to get into that chapter, aren't they? In the very next page, they're going to get into
we'll
it.
probably deal with that the next time then.
What's our link?
We are linking. Okay, where is it? Oh yeah, we're linking to Paradise Lost playlist, and then the one that's specifically about the Zechariah passage, and then we'll talk about it the next time. But this one is the quake.
The quake that shook 2 Jehovah's Witnesses out of the Watchtower. Yeah. I think that's the first of 6 on Zechariah 14 passage.
Yeah.
Which is not the same playlist. This playlist is the Paradise Lost playlist, right?
Yeah.
Where we deal more with the Paradise Promises, specifically Isaiah and a few others. See you next time.
Yep.